Okay, we're going over the blood vessels. Okay, so what they have is three parts: tunica intima, tunica media, tunica externa. And tunica intima is made of endothelium, while tunica media is smooth muscle. Artery, there's going to be bigger tunica media. Why? This is because um your artery does the contractions. Remember pulmonary artery? This is the vein, the artery that like has to pump out the blood. So it will need more tunica media. It would need more smooth muscle for that. And tunica externa is made of connective tissues, very many different ones, like areolar, dense irregular, multiple types. They also have nerves. And there's also viscerum, and these are tiny capillaries that feed the large arteries. So these tiny capillaries are like, hey, yeah, hey arteries, here's some stuff. Okay. And let's go through the layers. Yeah, like just like I said earlier. And then internal elastic membrane. This is the made out of elastic connective tissue, while interna is made up of the basement membrane and elastic fibers. So internal elastic membrane is right here. This is basement membrane. Basement membrane, what does it do? It attaches it, so it kind of keeps it there. And um this is like where the tunica intima is, you know. So arteries, they actually transport blood away from the heart. And you can tell an artery by versus a vein by the direction of the blood. Arteries away, vein is in. They're strong and elastic because they need to withstand high blood pressure because the heart is constantly pumping and beating. Every time it goes to systole, it pushes the blood out of the heart to the arteries and it needs to withstand the high blood pressure. And they branch into smaller and smaller arteries as they travel away from the heart. And the smallest ones are called arterioles. And there is the thicker tunica media, which is more smooth muscle, thicker tunica externa, and more connective tissue to anchor the arteries in place to make sure they don't move around with your body. And the tunica intima is the same in both the arteries and the veins. It's just one single layer, the very, and then, yeah, stomia endothelium. And elastic arteries, they are the largest arteries in the body. They are seen in the aorta, the pulmonary trunk. The pulmonary trunk really needs elastic arteries because, it's pumping blood, it's taking, like, you know, and they have thin walls for size, but they can stretch. They can stretch a lot because why? They have collagen fibers between the smooth muscle and the tunica media. And every time the left ventricle contracts and goes to systole, it ejects blood out of the aorta so rapidly that the aorta must be able to stretch and recoil to accumulate that sudden influx of blood. If it didn't do that, the aorta would burst open and rupture and bleed out within a couple of seconds. So elastic arteries, they kind of help propel and they send blood to the rest of the body. They contract through systole and they push out and help, and this prevents the blood from slowing down. The stretching capability is what makes them elastic. They can stretch, recoil, propel blood. And yeah, so this is the elastic artery. It's conducting, going, and they kind of push it out. That's why it's very important that you have this in your heart, because your heart is a beating motion. It goes beep, beep, beep. Muscular arteries, on the other hand, they are medium-sized arteries in the body. They're in your thigh, your arm. They're pretty thick compared to elastic membrane. More smooth muscles. There's about 40 layers of cell. You guys see that? That is huge. They have fewer collagen fibers, but you do see a bit of elastic lamella. And what they do is they distribute blood and they regulate where the blood goes. So, in order to tell the difference between the two, elastic arteries have a larger diameter but thinner walls. They have more elastic fibers, collagenous fibers, and the thickness of the wall is just, it's different. While muscular narrow diameter and they have fewer elastic and the thickness of the wall is thicker. Remember how earlier I was showing you guys how this one is so thick? This is like compact. This is thick. Elastic artery. This has a huge tunica externa because you know where your skin is. You want to have thick skin, right? Well, this is inside your body. So this is what it looks like, and this is what it looks like. Okay. So atrial is has three tunics and it's very thin, super small. Atrial is like the smallest guy there. And it has tunica intima, tunica media is only two layers. Tunica externa is just super thin. They are the smallest of our arteries. And they're very important because they regulate blood flow to the capillary beds. So artery to the capillary beds. So small arteries bring blood into the capillary beds, and this is the site of nutrient waste and waste pickup. So blood coming from the heart. So okay, so let me explain it. Blood comes from the heart, right? And what it does.
Today, I probably got one of the coolest beauty treatments I've ever done. I decided to get lip blushing and even out the tone of my lips. This is a very popular treatment in Korea to stay low maintenance. After a lot of research and knowing that this is a semi-permanent procedure, I headed my way over to meet Rosie. For a detailed consultation, she actually recommended that I get lip visualization done. Essentially, that means matching the inner shade of your lip of lip blushing. She uses the removal to put down the pigment. This essentially gives you the most natural look possible after it's finished clearing. This is how my lips look after a week. I'm so happy with my results because it looks so natural. It looks like my lips are even. If you go to Rosie, you guys can use code Sarah to get $50 off. Today, people always ask me how I stay healthy when eating is my job, but here's a full week of workouts in my life. I started the week with
So the metriole is a junction between the atrial and a capillary bed that contains a precapillary splinter. So what happens is the precapillary splinter are like, okay, these shut down and they use it to turn off the blood. So it halts the blood flow from entering the capillary bed, and so this would regulate where the blood is going. So if you after you're eating, you want to bring the blood to capillary beds and intestines, but if you haven't eaten in a while, you don't want to waste time sending blood around when the intestines aren't busy processing food. So the precapillary splinters will shut down that area and you won't need to divert blood to an area where it's not necessary at the time. So splinters are little bands of smooth muscles that wrap around the metrioles, and this allows the atrial to control how much blood is going through the atrial and the capillary beds. And there is different types of capillaries, and the capillaries are thin red blood cells that travel in a single vial, and they go through a capillary and have to bend and squeeze through. And this is where nutrients, waste, oxygen, carbon dioxide, fluid exchange happens between blood and body tissue. And there are three types of capillaries. So this is kind of where the material exchange are. So it's like this little tube, and like things come out of it. They're like, okay, let's like trade things here. Continuous, a way to remember is it's least leaky, and the blood plasma leaks out. There's no holes between the endothelial cells, so it's continuous. Has tight junctions, and the proteins have they leak proteins, large sugar molecules, those come through. Sinusoids or fenestrated capillaries have small holes, so it looks like Swiss cheese. So H2O ions and small molecules can pass through. And this is because kidneys need to filter. Đi ngủ sớm nha. Good night. Okay, so the fenestrated capillary, the reason why you could see this in kidneys is because they filter blood and waste. So you know your urine, right? Your urine is processed through the kidney, and the capillaries are like, okay, like we're gonna filter out the blood and waste. Because if you have blood in your pee, you're like, that's concerning, you know? This one looks a little different. There's large holes, there's no basement membrane, but large substances can pass through. For example, bone marrow makes new red blood cells when white blood cells enter the bloodstream. And they are very, very leaky. And they are involved in the blood life cycles. And a trick that I have to remember this is cows sip carefully, feed through filters, and slurp sloppily. You know? So, cows sip carefully, slurp sloppily, and feed through filters. What does that mean? It means, continuous. They're not very leaky, not like no leak at all, no holes. Fenestrated, which was this one. This one is small holes. Slurp sloppily is big holes. There are three things that allow for blood to move against gravity. Okay, one is one-way valves. One-way valves allow that blood can flow backwards and only in one direction. While skeletal muscle pump, it's basically every time you contract your muscles. Hi everyone, system. And this maintains homeostasis for the interstitial fluid. This fluid is the intracellular fluid, and this is this distributes heat throughout the body. So blood travels through the circulatory system, and it's made up of your heart and blood vessels. So this is actually a connective tissue because there's cells suspended in the matrix. And for skeletal pump, it's every time they surround the veins and every time you contract your muscles. So when you're sitting, it can cause a clot because you don't squeeze your muscle. So a lot of people will sit for a long time, a clot starts to form because yeah. And respiratory pump is the breathing in your torso. So it sucks the blood up to your heart. And there are things that are not normal. So those are the three ways. Let me summarize. One-way valves, blood can only flow in one direction, cannot flow backwards. Skeletal muscle pump, they surround the veins and they contract your muscles. And the respiratory pump is the breathing in your torso. Skeletal muscle pump essentially it's a one-way valve that pump blood back to the heart. So it's going up like this, back to the heart. Blood is down here, it's going back. And basically, there are a lot of skeletal muscles that surround the veins. So every time you contract, it's pumping. Every time your muscles contract, it's making more blood. It's going up like this. Blood is going up. And that is why sitting for a long time can be dangerous because the blood will start to get stuck in the foot. You have to be up. You have to stand up. Okay, guys, if you sit down like this, right? Like this is a person. He's sitting. And then the blood is not the blood is not um it can't go up, right? So it's like, okay, like we're gonna do a big pull here. It's gonna get a claw on his foot. Poor dude's gonna get a claw. It's gonna be like "Wee." And this can be a concern for people, especially like if you're going on a long flight, like all the blood gets clotted right here. So it's important to stand up. It's important to move around, guys. Anastomosis is when two arteries merge or when two veins divide. This provides redundancy. Normal is when arteries get smaller and smaller, but this is an adaptation for survival, survival of the fittest. So we start developing. Oops. Sorry, guys. We start developing these things. So I want to go over the circle of willies with you guys. Let me zoom in. So the circle of willies, this looks really weird. But what this does is the artery diverges into a circle. You see the circle right here? And it's important because it provides redundancy for your brain. So if you had a catastrophic blockage, it wouldn't stop the flow to the brain. So one pump stops, you still got another pump right there. So this is in your head. Your head is very, very important because you want the blood to flow there or you die. So it's like, okay, like we're gonna develop like a circle of veins, and the circle of veins are gonna communicate and make sure everything's okay. Dorsovenous arch. This is the two veins in the toes. They merge and get larger. So half will go to the lateral side, half will go to the medial side. And this ensures that you have blood flow going to your heart. If you have only one way. Okay, the reason for this, the venous anasto anastomosis. So if you accidentally block one of the veins in your foot, you can still you can end up with blood building and nowhere where the blood can escape. Your foot will swell up. So this ensures that when you bend your toes, right? Okay, let's say I bend this toe. I'm like, hey, I like to bend my toes around. And um you would still have it just causes the veins it ensures that which causes the veins to collapse down or wearing tight socks. But then this, you still got, you still got blood pumping there. So you like bend this toe, you still got this side, you got two sides pumping blood. Like, hey, we're both working. So you block one side, you still got the other side. And this is a shunt. Atriovenous anastomosis. And when you have an alternative pathway to capillary bed, and normally blood will leave an arteriole to the capillary bed and leave the venue. And okay, let me explain this one. So this is basically a shortcut for your blood. So it goes from arterial, venule, and then s skipping the capillary. So, so blood that is flowing from the atrials will need to be able to go somewhere. So the shunt allows the blood to take the bypass and go straight from the arterial into a venule back up to the heart to still stop to not stop the circulation of blood through that body. Oop. So there are specialized types of veins. There's two types. The vascular sinus, and this one is a specific hole. It is not a vessel, but it's made of tunica intima and dense connective tissue. And this is in the coronary sinus or the heart. And it's basically a special backdoor where coronary circulation can return blood right into the heart by going to the right atrium as opposed to going through the inferior or superior vena cava. So, okay, the superior inferior vena cava, you have to go here and then here. This is a little hole. It's like a little opening right here. It's special. It's like, okay, the blood can just return back in here. It's all right, guys. So it goes into this little hole. And yeah, portal veins. So these ones are in your abdominal pelvic cavity. And what these do is they connect two capillary beds together. So blood going from the artery into the capillary bed into the secondary capillary bed. So it stops for extra processing before it returns to the heart. So normally, it's artery, capillary bed, vein, heart. Portal is artery, first capillary, portal veins, second capillary, vein, and heart. An example is the hepatic portal vein, which brings blood to your back to your liver, but blood to the second capillary inside your liver and allows the liver to further process nutrients from your digestive system. And it goes to second vein and returns heart through the vena cava. So actually, let me type it out for you guys. And it's a little confusing, but so normal looks like this. It's capillary, vein, heart. Portal is artery, where's cap? Cap isn't capillary, guys. Portal vein. And this is just used to like you want to absorb the nutrients better. You're like, hey, I want to like eat you better. So they're like, they gotta go through more. Gotta go through more steps. Second capillary vein and heart. It's a little hard to see. I'm gonna move it a bit. So this is it. Normals capillary vein heart. Portal is artery, first cap, portal, and secondary. Okay, let's go through the last slide. Varicosis and hemorrhoids. So basically, veins have valves, but the valves have weakened. So the blood will flow backwards against the pull of gravity, and it ends up pulling like this. This is what it looks like, guys. Because the veins, they're supposed to have valves. They can't go backwards. They're supposed to go up. But then the valves are like, we don't want to work no more. So this is the valve right here. Right? It's like it's supposed to stop it, but it's not stopping it, and it's weak. So it pulls blood right here. And varicose veins are in people's legs, thighs, feet, because the veins weaken over time and blood can no longer travel against the heart. And it's the inflammation of veins, and it's very, very painful. And if it happens in the anal canal, it is called hemorrhoids. Since those valves are weakened from the anal to the heart, it can pull in the butt. The butt's like here, right? And then little pulls right here. That. So you can prevent this by, like do not stand for multiple hours. And and yeah, and you can reduce by exercising, reducing hardening of blood vessels by avoiding long sitting and standing and wearing stockings. And arteriosclerosis is the hardening of arteries. So if you develop this, arteries are less elastic and you can be troublesome because it can lead to an aneurysm, which is in a large blood vessel, and you can develop a stroke. So the arteries get hard, arteries are less elastic, and you can't, and then yeah, it's hard because you get a stroke because there's no blood flow to the brain, and this can cause a heart attack. So exercise, get good diet, and that's it. And that is all for chapter 22.